Hey, hello everyone. Morning.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all enjoying the TestMu conference 2024 so far. We have had some fantastic sessions, and I'm thrilled to introduce another one who I know to be just as insightful. Startups are known for their speed and agility, but maintaining high quality in such a fast paced environment can be a real challenge. Today's session, building quality sprint by sprint evolution of QA ClickUp, will take us on a journey through how ClickUp has evolved its quality assurance process to keep pace with rapid development cycles. Our speaker, Raghul Murugesan, is the head of QA at ClickUp. He has an impressive background, having started his career as a developer before moving into SDET roles and eventually management. With experience from industry giants like Infosys, Sears, Box, and Apple, Raghul brings a wealth of knowledge in both development and quality engineering to the table. In this session, Raghul will share strategies for seamlessly integrating QA into the product development process, lessons learned from the evolution of QA pickup, and best practices for balancing quality and speed. Whether you are working in a startup or more established company, the insights from this talk will be incredibly valuable, right? So I hand over this to you, Raghul.
Hey, thank you so much, Sumesh. Thanks for the good
Anytime.
intro. Cool. So as Sumesh mentioned, I've been in the industry for 13 years so far. Been a developer, then moved into multiple roles. Uh, start working at startup is always fun. You have a lot of liberty and luxury to play around and get the process done quickly instead of being a part of the wheel. You invent the wheel here at startup. So I'll take you all to the session. Uh, Let me start sharing my screen. Cool. Can you all see my screen? Cool. So, so I don't. So we are going to talk about how we evolved how we evolved the quality here at ClickUp. So as Somesh mentioned, ClickUp is a startup. It's very fast. We work very agile. We want to rapidly develop a product, ship new features to our customer. So keeping our pace, the quality along with the rapid pace was really a challenge for us. I'll just get into how we did it step by step. This presentation is divided into two sections. The first section I'll probably focus more on the automation side, and the next section I'll focus on all the processes that helped us achieve the quality together. For us at here at ClickUp, quality is more about culture plus technology. So we blend it together. That will help us to achieve the speed. So before I get into what we did, I want to talk a little bit about our product. So ClickUp is a project management and a productivity platform. We have close to 48 features, what we call as 48 products within a big umbrella of ClickUp itself. So there's a lot of flexibility that helps us to increase the productivity. We have docs, we have whiteboard, we have tasks. You can manage everything seamlessly within our integrated application. So currently, we execute close to 600 test cases in order for us to do our leases to our customer. Uh, Let me first tell you what was our state a year before. So this is how our QA week, like our release timeline, look like. So we usually do our cutoff on a Friday, then we take pretty much Monday to Thursday 3 p.m. to complete all of our testing. Then just do a little bit of bug triaging between the time that is left between the Thursday and the Friday. So it usually takes a week or like if you look, it's like from day to day, it is somewhere at 10 days for us to ship any new features to our customer or any fixes to our customer. So it was always painstaking for us. So we started focusing on what we could do better to deliver quickly with high quality confidence and also maintaining our pace. So the most of our testing was very reactive at ClickUp. Like we just start off with our usual phases like requirement, design, implementation, just following the waterfall methodology, even though we were all agile initially. So we were just doing all of our test scripting during our testing phase, which is at the last stage. Anything that we find out, it takes a cycle again for us to fix it. We have to wait a week for it to be done and shipped it. So there was a lot of hurdles for us. Our test planning was not happening during the requirement phase, it was always happening during our implementation. So we understood all of our culture practices, we just focused on changing them now. So our testing is purely reactive initially. So we are shifting towards a more proactive culture by adopting shift left testing. So we started off pushing all of our test scripting to the implementation phase. When I say at the implementation phase, it's not just the testing team that writes test automation here. Even the developer contributes along with us. We open our framework. We use a simple concept: one tool, one language, and one repo, kind of giving opportunity for everybody to contribute towards quality. We believe in this motto: quality is everyone's responsibility, and the testing team leads the way. We shifted the testing script to implementation phase. We started doing a planning at the requirement phase, kind of following the shift left. This eliminated most of our bug before it gets into development. That's reducing us by 20% and helping us to maintain our test script at the the late stages as well. This pushed us to deliver with a continuous testing model. Instead of being reactive, we started being more proactive. We understood the requirement earlierly. We started doing all of our questioning, reasoning, communications, kind of putting everybody on the same page. QA being the first customer to use any features, so we started voicing out our pain points. That kind of gave insight for the development team to rechange or redesign as they are into the development phase. This kind of pushed us to do a better quality deliverable product. So our goal of doing a continuous testing started happening by adopting shift left testing initially. Then we are now in a continuous testing model. The next thing we started focusing on is our test automation framework. I'm not going to get into the details of what or how we instrumented the framework from the scratch. Rather, going to focus on all those areas or achieve all the improvements that helped us to do a better automation framework. So we started educating the team first to understand where what test needs to fit in, where a business facing automation should come, where the E2E should be there, where a technology facing automation should be there, like integration testing and unit testing. We started evangelizing this, we started adopting this model, we started bucketing all of our test scenario into these particular test categories. That gave everyone like a direct responsibility of using the test scenario that was drafted as part of our shift left testing into the automation phase as the development is happening. This helped us to integrate test automation very early in our cycle, thus running all of our technology facing automation as part of our CI/CD. Then we started using our E2E testing mostly on after the post deployment phase. So that kind of saved us a lot of time and as well as a cost of resources as well. The next thing was, this is a quadrant that we have been using for all the test scenario that we draft using our tests, using our shift left approach. We started to use the scenarios, uh, bisect them using this quadrant, put them into each buckets. That way, we were able to identify what needs to be automated, what doesn't need to be automated, which needs to be automated first. That would give us more ROI. This is the one that gives us least or no ROI. We started to stack rank them and we started to attack them in that approach. This helped us to reduce most of our regression testing, and as well as for the new feature, it also helped us to automate very early as well. So this approach saved us and identified a lot of issues as part of our CI instead of doing it as part of our CD. So this is our framework that we use today. We started to decouple both backend and front end. One of the challenges we had was most of the test cases was very convoluted for us. We started having all the API, front end, everything since into one repo itself. We started to bisect them. Since we use a lot of WebSocket in our application, which was very time consuming when we were using API automation, a lot of queuing started to happen a lot. So we re-architect the framework. We created our own database. We spin off our database. We started to inject our database and we started to set up all our environment. Instead of running it against a URL, we started to do every setup on our node machine against which we were running our automation. So we used to get the latest code of our front and back end repo, the database layer that we were using. Then we started to create the simulation on a local host, and we started to execute all of our test case against that, which reduced the flakiness to close to 1% for us from 30%. Since due to a lot of wet socket issues, we were always running into flakiness. By re-architecting them in this format helped us to eliminate all this flakiness. We are using Playwright and Cypress today for our front-end automation, and we are using Jest. We are in the process of moving away from Cypress to Playwright. So by end of this year, we would mostly move into Playwright entirely for our front-end automation. And just as using Just, we created all of our API automation framework from scratch. This is a in-house framework that we created. It's most simple and easiest way for the developer to contribute for our API automations, and this has been saving a ton of time for us. As part of our re-architecture, what we did is UI, like most of the time, what happens is our UI component tends changing as when the development happens. So we created a separate UI library for us, which was like a hash map that we had. We stored all of our library in a key value pair combinations. Even though if the value changes, the key was the same, we were able to update it whenever someone was making a change to the code. This was getting auto updated based on the framework that we built. We started using our enhanced wait times, not like we rewrote everything from scratch, not following the existing library ones. Then we added test library into Cypress. Like test library, I'm not sure if you guys have an opportunity to look to play with test replay with Cypress. Test replay is one of the advanced feature for us. Whenever we run into any issue, it records. It helps us to rerun only those areas, and it will also give us all the network logs. That kind of saved a lot of time for us not to go dig into our failures. It also helped the developer to triage all those failures themselves, not to reach out to us. Writing script is another area, but maintenance is the pain for all of us, as we all know when it comes to testing. So the test replay was a boon for us. It reduced our maintenance or any triaging time to close to 90%. It enabled the developer to do all the triaging themselves. We also started to do groupings of all the test cases. Uh, the developers could execute all of the test cases on their own from the GitHub action directly. They were not relying on us, and instead of relying on everything need to be done through CI, they could execute it whenever they want at what time. We mocked most of our network calls in API. That helped us to also isolate most of the issue. One of the biggest thing that we implemented was Apply2, the AI based visual UI testing tool that came. uh, this reduced our bug count, or this identify all of the issues close to 90% of any of the UI mishaps that was going through, like where the human eye was unable to catch. Aptitool came into a place where it helped us to visually catch all the UI, color codes the areas to show us where the issue was happening. By combining all of this re-architecture and all of this third-party application into our framework, uh, our automation grew up to close to 35% from 5% within a span of 3 months. And this was only through the four QA that we were having at that time. And we were like we scaled up a lot after that. uh, this helped us to achieve a better automation, reduce the flakiness from 30% to 1%, and now we don't have any flakiness at all. I'll also touch on how it also helped us reduce the runtime later on. I'll just this is what I was referring from the Amplitude perspective. So any of the UI changes that we were not able to identify, Amplitude will come into place, and it was able to do the screenshot comparison immediately, help us and flag all those issues very easily. And we were also able to use the same screens again different browsers. So we had a licensing with Amplitude that allow us to run on different browsers, not just one Chrome. We can write it for Chrome, but we were able to execute for different browsers. So that was a big win for us. And test replay, like this is as you see in the screenshot, it shows you all of the network logs. All you have to do is just like replay them. It'll get you all the network log, all the steps. So it helped the developer to triage any issues based on the code change that they were making. I'll show you how we allow the developers to run this test. So we just have a way for the developers to run tests from a Git action flow. All they have to do is they have to identify their their branch. If they want to run it against any of their PR, they have to just search their branch, get their PR. They could run against any branch they want. They can choose all the target. We have grouped our test cases using the tagging mechanism. So we have individual squad based test cases. Squad is like team that we call within ourselves. We have a regression for squads. We have critical. We have smoke. We have all the test cases that we use. So based on what the developer wants to run against the PR, they could use it. And like for in my case, I'm just gonna use smoke. I'm gonna use it against QA. And if on the backend, I'm just gonna say again whatever backend version that I want to run it against, I could use the same. Similarly, then if I can choose the version browser engine, then all I have to do is just run. So it'll just immediately kick off all those issues for us. um, so it start to execute. I'll just go into the earlier version. I'm sorry, I'm there is some issues that we are trying to fix now. So if you go into all this job, it will show you all those tests run that we have been running. So we currently run against 10 node machines. um, and this is what it was taking for us initially when we started the year last year, and it was taking close to 23 minutes. With all this refactoring and not removing any test cases, I would say we are still, for the smoke, we are hitting close to only 6 minutes currently. We just brought it down from 23 minutes to 6 minutes very easily by just using all this re-architecturing. And we reduced our flakiness, and any test that we run there would be showing up here on your latest branch. People who use Cypress should already know it. So that's with our automation. So the other thing that we did for flaky test is still happening. The other thing that we did was we understood what are we just bisected our all the failures, and we were identified what are the reasons that was causing flakiness. Then we started creating tags again for all this flakiness. We started quarantining those test cases separately. By using our lint, this test cases was prevented, and it was like if it was after the 3 runs, if we are still seeing these issues, we would use any one of this tag, and we would just automatically separate those test cases outside of the existing smoke, and then they will not be running as part of it. It will create a task for us in our ClickUp that all of the automation, we are using the automation from ClickUp. It will create a task for us, assign a user to it, and ask them to look into those flaky tests that was quarantined. And it gives a week of time for those person for whom this test case is assigned to be fixed. So someone who triages those tasks will look into it. If it is, then they have to fix it, or they would assign someone else to get it fixed. And within a week of time, we were able to get it back into the proper green state from the flaky state. This helped us also to remove all the flakiness. The developer themselves were also able to use it. So this was like another win, like unblocking everybody to have a better productivity. By using all these methods, we were able to reduce our flakiness to zero on our PR checks today, running it as part of CI. And our runtime has been reduced to 13%, like 6% on smoke. And we are now running a batch of test cases that is taking another 7 minutes. That is only one time, not on every commit. That's as part of our post merge. So we created two suits, smoke and critical. So smoke is something that we are going to run on every CI. Critical is something that we are going to run only once before we do our merge. So that's running as part of our post merge. So that way we are able to filter the bugs at every level possible. This not only saved us time, saved us a lot of dollar amount as well. We started to save close to $100K a year easily. Projections are yet to go larger than 100K for this year. And this is like we moved from 4 days to 2.5 days, and as of today we are moving from 2.5 days to just 1.5 days. So we reduced the team size from 10 to 8 members. The two people who are available are now focusing on other areas. So we just improved a lot on resources and as well as on time to ship it to deployment. This confidence gave us a lot of learning for us. And this is now, and the next step that I'm going to talk about is how we improved our reliability as well. Here at ClickUp, quality is about reliability. Performance, it encompasses everything as a whole. This is on the E2E framework side that we focused on and the backend. The next thing I'm going to talk about is how we improved our performance strategy. On performance side, we started to have a lot of monitoring. We had a flexibility to set up our own data. We validated all of our infrastructure changes. Since we have to onboard a lot of our customer, these performance testing are a huge uh, thing for us. We started to focus on all of our metrics, all of our threshold values. Then we started to build a separate framework for performance apart from whatever we had for our front and back end repo. We started using locust framework behind, so it helps us to create a lot of node machines. Then we started to have our release, like it was like running as part of a FD release. We started to have our monitoring dashboards. It just pages us when it goes beyond our threshold. So we execute them very locally. So this is how the execution happens today. We initiate the load, then we started to do a performance on all those latest code base that we have. Then we store our test bed. Then we start to bisect them against different branches, different environments as well. Then we kind of make a report out of it, and we send them to our Tableau, and then it creates all of our monitoring things. It helps us to show whether we are on the green or we are on the red. So that kind of helps us to make a decision on what needs to be done for that particular release. This is mostly on the backend side that we have been focusing on. On the front end, we are using Datadog synthetic test that will help us to create all the UI page traffics on the core areas of our applications. Tandemly, we have been using both API and our core Datadog synthetic test, which is helping us to push our performance to a really high bar now. Uh, uh, a year before, we were really lagging on performance, like compared to us from a year before now, we are just like we reduced everything to a millisecond. So like our performance have been a huge improvement for us, and we did all this along with keeping our keeping our feature development as well. We had a lot of support from our developer who did a performance week to improve all of this performance by getting all this data metrics that we were able to share. So this is the whole holistic of how we have been running. So I could probably do a quick show of how it is happening. So once we initiate all this locus, it creates all those node machines for us. I'm so sorry if the clarity is not so clear. It starts to create all the data. It starts to create all of our node machines. It aggregates most of our informations, and then it just tells us what does the runtime look like. Is it like it is done within the threshold value or not? Then if the requirement have been satisfied or not, if it was able to hit all of our requirement that we have preset within our applications. So it gives us a mostly our if something is not happening here, all of the information is sent to our S3 bucket. This result has been sent to our S3 bucket, from which we are able to pull up all of our information into our dashboard. So which helps us to make a decision on whether the build is of high grade for our performance or not. The last is our mobile automation framework. For mobile automation framework, instead of we use Flutter for most of our mobile for development. So it is not a native application, so we are not building anything using Kotlin or iOS. Rather, we went with an open source application called Morpho, and we just had a tie up with them. It's pretty much a simple YAML language. You write everything using a simple English YAML file configuration, and they will spin off all of the backend code for you. And through that, we were able to execute all of our tests on both the platform of iOS and Android. This is another additional, like all those 6,000 test cases that we have been running is only for web. Whenever we make any changes on the backend, we were not accounting mobile initially. That would probably bring down our mobile application. So this automation framework came in as a really huge help for us. We were able to develop 50% of our mobile automation within 2 months using this framework, and we automated all of our critical flow. So any changes that we make to backend, we immediately run the mobile as well to ensure things are not breaking mobile. So this kind of helped us to keep both the platform uphold, and like Mastro has been helping us and with all those no coder tool. So pretty much easy for anybody to adopt to this framework. These were all we done what we did for our automation framework. The next thing we started focusing on is mostly on the eng productivity, like the developer productivity. We started focusing on our SDLC vision, like how we could improve the developer productivity by introducing a lot of tools and other things. So we never had, this was our current framework. So we never had a local development environment for our developers. They were mostly using our QA environment. So QA started being more polluted, because of which a lot of flaky test was happening in our backend framework. Then the pipeline was rerunning every test cases for every commit. We were not able to control it, so which was like costing us on resources and as well as on the time. And we were like deploying it to every environment, and but we were running the same test against every environment, which was not a wise decision. So we also wanted to have a better caching mechanisms as well. So without having, these are all our challenges that we were trying to solve. How we solved it is we started creating a local development environmental tool. Like as I showed you how we were using Git, we are also trying to create something similarly using our the Docker image, so the developer can run it everything locally as well. They don't need to come to the Git. And the next thing is we are now categorizing all the test cases. What needs to run on a CI? What needs to run on a local environment? What needs to run on a CD? That way, we are bisecting all the test cases, providing filtration at every level. It is not mandatory for us to run all 1,000 test cases or 2,000 test cases across all the environment or all the stages. We started rather we are like using the resources efficiently. We are identifying what needs to run at which pace, and we started to categorize them using the tagging mechanism. We started doing all those auto running, and we started to build images. Like we started to build images that could be nominated from one environment to another environment. So we are using the same images instead of using the same code base in the past. That kind of avoided any accidental merge that could happen without our knowledge. So this prevented all those things. So we are using one image that goes from QA, from the local to QA till staging and the prod. And we, so since it's the same image that is being nominated from every environment, we started controlling what test case needs to run at each environment, and we started to run them appropriately. This comes for both back and front end performance and everything together. That way we were able to identify all those results from every stage as possible as week. If we were able to find any issues, we were able to do a faster rollback and not fixes that could happen immediately, instead of trying to do a fast follow, we started to do a rollback and hot fix it immediately. So that saved a lot of hassle for us as well, and we started to have better incident management for all of these issues with us. Most of these issues, most of so this is where we are running them in CI. How we are running them in CI is being shown here, like what I mentioned earlier, which test case is running at which part of the CI and at which level of the CD. By doing all of this, we were able to control our cost. We were able to use the resource efficiently. We were able to do more proactive communication. We were not waiting for an issue to happen and then fix it at later stages. Rather, we were anticipating anything as early as possible, and we were able to fix it. And we are moving into from a 4 days regression to 1.5 days now, which is giving us a good confidence for us to do 2 releases a week going forward. So we are right now gearing up to do 2 releases a week. So instead of doing one releases in the past, we were just doing one releases for every 10 days. So a customer has to wait for any fixes for the bug or anything for a 10 days. But now it is going to be only within 2 to 3 days. So everything is going to happen as quick as possible for them. That only happened through all those framework re-architecturing and all those tooling re-architecturing that we did in our CI and CD. This was on the technical side, but this was not the only thing that helped us. The other thing that I would talk about is most of our QA initiatives, all of our process improvement that we did. So I'm just going to focus on the three key areas that we did so far. Like one is test rate. We never had a centralized test repositories or centralized reporting system. So we started using TestRail for it, and then we started using something called as traffic light, QA traffic light. This helped us to track our project resources. Uh, so currently we are a team of I manage a team of 27 members. We are two estates, close to 10 QE engineers, and then QA engineers and two performance engineers. So we all work as one QA, one quality team. Um, but the projects that we all work on is really huge, so it was always a resource issue for us. So this the traffic light helped us to solve most of our issues when it comes to solving all of this problem. Traffic light is just built using our ClickUp application. Then bug 360, which is also built using our ClickUp application. Then along with bug 360, we also used a tool called git bisect, so kind of helping us identify which PR introduced the bug, which was a game changer for us when it comes to identifying the problem and solving it as early as possible. Excuse me. So, shift left testing adoption, the bug, whatever we discussed in the previous slide. Shift left testing was the first thing that we did. Then we did bug 360. It's more, what is bug 360? Bug 360 is more about bringing the technical support team and the QA together. So technical support team are like, for me, in my opinion, they are also part of the testing team. They work with the customers, bring in all those bugs that the customer face from a different environment. They work with the QAs to try to repro them and follow up with the communication to the customer in order to bridge it up. So that's where the tools like the git bisect and the 360 that we created, it helped us to group all of the dupe issues, create one main issues. Then anything that comes as a group was always getting reported as multiple reports under the same main issue. So this helped us to stack rank and get all those issues fixed. This also helped us to come up with SLAs to fix any bugs based on priorities, and coming up with more subject matter experience for the technical support team from the QA side, where they were able to communicate better to the customer. They were able to keep our customer happy on keep them updated on all the steps of the issues of why it was happening and the other areas that they could avoid the issues as well. QA traffic light was a real-time status update along with better planning. It was a real-time status update to all of the company. Anybody can go to that and see where their project is currently in. Is it in the testing phase? Is it in the requirement analysis phase? Is it in the automation phase? So that kind of gave them a good insight, and it also helped us to understand how many projects we are taking for every quarter over quarter and what we could do for the team. So we were using TestRail not only to store our test repo, but also to send all of our test results into our TestRail. So our playwright test results goes into TestRail directly as Cypress as well today. So every test cases, all the 6,000 test cases, when we run them as part of our regression testing, we have close to 25% of them automated. So all of them goes into the test rail directly, and the rest of the testing is what we get tested today manually. And we have a team geographically located in three different time zones. We strategically hired them in that way where we can do round the clock testing. So we were able to test all of the 4,000 test cases within 1.5 days very easily, with the support that we were able to get them tested around like 24-hour support with the team. So all of the report, like I'm not gonna much more into this. Like this is the standard test trail report. So it just gives you why the failure happened, what was the reason for the failure. It has a historical context and everything, which helped us to identify most of the naughty area in our application. It gives us a lot of data that helped us to identify the most naughtiest area in our application and focus more on those areas to improve the quality. And it was also able to identify what are the most confident area in our application. So that way we were able to do a risk-based testing approach for us when time comes in. So we are also doing that in place currently, and we are just going to try it out for this cycle for the risk-based assessment model. If that works out, that would further reduce our testing to 1 day. So this is what I was talking to you about traffic light. So traffic light is a more of a picture representation of where the projects are currently. It will let the development team, the QA, the project owner, the technical support, everybody know what is happening currently for that particular project when it comes to quality, whether we have completed the test case drafting, unit testing is done. So it also helps us to, since we are using shift left approach, it also helps us to understand what whether we are also adding a test coverage for a unit testing or not. So that is also taken care in our action that we have built. So it will also tell us whether the code coverage has been increased or it has been decreased for every new PR change. That we also started recording that for the new feature as well, whether we are increasing the unit testing coverage for the new feature, the integration, and we are also doing. So we are trying to adopt the test permit here. We are not adding everything on the E2V. Rather, we are trying to move the test cases to the lower level, to the lower level of the unit testing, so that way more of the testing is happening at the unit level, then the integration, then the E2V level. So this is helping us to see whether we are doing everything appropriately or not. So if we have an intake form, this also helped us to avoid all the ad hoc requests that could happen through Slack. Rather, we started streamline our process. Since our resources were very thin, we started streamlining the process of taking in all those requests, like following like an agile practice there. By getting it, like if it is an ad hoc as well, we just try to focus on that. But we started having everything in one place. So it helped us to do a better planning, a better allocation of resources. Avoiding all those confusions because of resources being moved into different projects. But 360. So this is another interesting thing. I'll just show you what we do, how we record all of our data. Since for ClickUp, we since this is our own application, how we built our just let me know. So this helped us to quickly get through the triaging phase immediately. Along with doing this, we started also doing the bisect. So I'll run this bisect at 2x speed, just due to interest of time. So we identify what is this issue in this, and then we started to run them using this tool. So this tool helps us to configure based on which environment we think is the good fit for this bug to be available and the bad environment, and then we just start our kit bisect. Then So we start to repeat all of our test procedures to identify those bugs. So as you see on the right, it shows you all those PR that was created. As I start doing all those steps to reproduce that bug, the PR would get decreased. The matching will be like filtered. All those PR will be filtered based on the steps that I'm doing, and it will be narrowed to one or two tests, one or two PRs. So it identified a PR that created this bisect, and then we just get that PR and we add it to the same form, and then we submit it. So it immediately helps a developer to go into identifying the root cause of the issue and get it fixed immediately as early as possible. And that's the other way that we try to resolve a bug within as early as possible within our SLA. So overall, like this is like what we did in this year so far. We just adopted the shift left approach. We expanded our team geographically in different regions strategically, so we could do 24-hour support. We adopted new automation framework. We adopted traffic light. Then we are migrating into Playwright now from Cypress. This is a decision that purely made with having we could have more developers to contribute towards playwright automation along with the QAs in our team. So our engineering team is really huge. So our QA to dev ratio is 10 is to 1. So we just need as much of help possible in order for us to keep up with going. And we also increased our automation coverage. Now we are trying to decrease our manual testing entirely to just 24 hours, just one day. And as I said, like we are also cleaning up the environment, like creating a local environment for the for the developers to test. So that way QA environment would be owned by the quality team, so it will be more like a release stage for us. um, we are decoupling with this support. We are going to decouple our releases from backend and front end separately, so we could deploy our services whenever we want. We don't have to wait for a unanimous deployment that needs to happen. We are also in the POC of utilizing AI currently to write most of our test automation. So we have been successful in using it for our front end. We are trying it out for our unit testing and integration as well. So that should probably the next time I could probably share with you more information on that. So the last stage for us for this year is mostly focusing on bridging the gaps that we have identified uh, to just enhance our process more. Uh, Thank you so much. Uh, Sorry if my voice was not audible. I'm just recovering from. I'm a little under the weather. I'm recovering, and I like to thank most of my team member who helped me here, and all of you guys for patiently listening to me. Thank you, Lambda Test, for giving me this opportunity as well.
It was really insightful. Thank you so much, Raghul, for sharing the evolution at ClickUp. I mean, especially for startups, this was amazing how to handle the entire QA process. So we really learned from it. We have a lot of questions also coming in. Let me know if I can show you on screen.
Sure.
Here goes the first one. Can you share insights into how ClickUp's QA team measures success in quality improvements from sprint to sprint?
So there are two things that we do for sprint to sprint. One is release testing, and the other is QA review. So there are a lot of things that gets QA'd up for us to do testing. The time for us to complete the testing, by the time it lands for us to complete a job versus the time it takes for us to complete it, uh, by using a process, is our process helping us or not? How much is our process helping us? If there is a delay that happens, we do a retro every week or week to understand whether we are hitting our quality goal. We try to get everything done within 36-hour SLA for anything that lands on our QA review. If something is not happening, we focus on our process. We try to see what caused us not to get it done. And bugs, we also focus on the number of bugs that gets shipped, the performance that gets shipped. We see whether our threshold is getting dropped or we are improving our threshold when it comes to performance. And the number of bugs, is it going always on the south side, like it is always decreasing or not? So we focus on those things. So this is how we measure our quality every week. So we also share those reports on a we have a ops meeting every weekly, so where we share how many bugs we identify, whether it is decreasing or increasing. That helps us to see whether we are on the improving side or whether we need to focus more on the process or not. It's, if I
All right.
show it, it would take a separate session for me. So that's why I'm keeping it short already.
Maybe TestMu 2025. Yeah,
Sure.
but thank you, Raghul. I hope Mukesh's question is answered. Let me pick up another one. Is this one? What strategies are the most effective in integrating QA seamlessly into the product development process?
Um, cool. It's really a tough one to answer. Uh, Probably like initially to start off with, it's first the immediate solution for us was cultural change was the first effective thing that we could say,
Yeah.
right? Uh, at startup, basically, everything is like quality was pretty much treated as a checklist, not as a cultural thing. So we adopted all those practices first to evangelize what is quality is all about. That's the foundation that we did, and we showed them how improving quality would improve us and benefit us all from doing quicker releases, how it would reduce. So the simple strategy that I used is I converted all of the bug into a dollar amount. Money speaks. So I was able to tell them if we were able to improve the quality at this level, this is the dollar amount that we would save. Right? Then I was able to show convince. First thing is like make them come to senses. The next thing was here's the process. The first thing that we started off with them is shift left approach. Like why always treat quality or testing at the very last of the cycle before we do a deployment? When we find something, we are again shipping our we are like we cause amper to our deadline. We introduce a lot of issues at the last moment. We call it a risk. So by using shift left approach, we kind of identify all those. We identify close to 10% of a bug as part of our requirement gap itself. So
Oh,
which was a huge win for us.
wow, that's amazing. Well, I guess Vijay got the answer. I'm Maki answered, but I think that's it for today's session. We already overshot the time, but as I conclude this insightful session, I would really like to thank Raghul for being a part of this event. It was motivating to see the evolution of QA at ClickUp and optimizing almost everything. Right, you've been you have to look at all the aspects. To all the attendees who are going to sessions, the part of TestMu, let me tell you that all the sessions are recorded and it will be available on Lambda Test YouTube channel, providing an opportunity for further learning and sharing. Please like, comment, and share with your peers. Till then, happy testing and good day to all of you.
Then see you.
Thank you, guys.